Social media for lawyers. The legal profession has long been described as one that adopts technologies and strategies last. And yet, in the social media space, I think when you hear from these 5 folks about how they're using social media and how they're creating vehicles for attorneys to get their message out, I think attorneys at this point, at least some of them, have taken this thing by the horns.
Cold Shots has launched 6 blogs in the course of a year, and we're about to launch our 7th for corporate. So we'll have all the major departments covered, and that includes some specialty areas as well. And honestly, it was not a challenge to get people involved in wanting to do it. I think it was just a little bit of explanation of how. In my opinion, a couple of the best reasons to get them to blog, it's not that hard to explain why. Cost is the easiest way to take the approach. If you're doing paper newsletters, you're paying for layout and design, you're paying for the print run, you're paying for the postage, and you really have no way to track who's read it or seen it or even opened it in the mail. Your best guess is by what mail gets returned to you, and that's not the world's most effective way of tracking what's going on. The blogs will really allow you to know exactly who's reading and which articles are being read more, which pages people are staying on longer. So as the course of the life of the blog progresses, you can start to tailor it better and better to increase your hits as months go by. So it's an interesting process. It is not any harder than the way the newsletters used to get the articles pulled together, but it's much more timely. So if legislation changes, instead of waiting till next month's newsletter, you can put it up today. And it makes a big difference in alerting clients up to the minute and really having that competitive advantage to be able to be the first one to get that message out there.
The scarcest and most precious commodity in the United States is people's attention. And that is the competition that we're all in, whether it's your business, your brand as an individual, as an attorney, ours as a newspaper organization, as a news organization. We're always trying to get people's attention, which is we're interested in bringing the outside into our blogging platform so graciously, and we use Twitter and LinkedIn, Facebook, and blogs to determine, what's the news out there and what people are saying to each other and what they're saying about themselves. Many of my reporters now use Twitter aggressively to not only get their audience, we use Twitter to let our audience know what we're up to. We also monitor people's Twitters, and because the demand that we're placing on our reporters is you got to get more news out there quicker.
There's no cost of entry, or virtually no cost of entry, compared to these guys here, where it became there is a monopoly in newsprint. If you want a newspaper in Bergen or Passaic, there's only one or one that's owned by the same one, whereas bloggers make and create their own spaces. That dynamism and that creativity and that uniqueness is absolutely scary to a lot of lawyers. So if you have talented marketing directors who will hold their hands and take the creative power that some, not all, and probably not even the majority of lawyers have to express ideas in a way that readers can understand, and identifying that audience is a gigantic issue, then that's one way that you can utilize blogs in a law practice. But and I bought advertising space on blogs, that really was fortuitous for me because I developed relationships with a lot of big bloggers before blogging advertising got really expensive. So when I then, in turn, was convinced to start my own blog, they knew me and were willing to give me a link, and that's gigantic. Blogging is a form of social networking, and some people are under the much less successful, a navel-gazer blog. So all of a sudden I had 100 followers, and all of a sudden I realized, this is a following. People who are interested in the topics on which I actually have something original to say, not what I'm having for breakfast, I'm taking the kids to the cleaners, or whatever it is that people are talking, the jabbering that goes on, but rather issues in intellectual property, trademark, copyright. Now I have over 400 followers. I'm following about 100 people. 100 people that I've selected carefully, and dynamically, I'm 3 or 4 times a day retweeting their topical posts so that those who follow me are aware that I'm on top of my topic in the social networking space. On Monday, I tweet the 4 or 5 best tweets of the previous, I post on the blog the 4 or 5 best tweets of the previous week from others. So I'm giving, and I used to lecture on networking. Networking is about giving, almost never about taking. You get back, unless you think about getting back, then you don't get back. I'm giving links, I'm giving traffic, and I've gone in the last 3 or 4 months from 200 to 300 readers a day to 500 or 600 readers a day because I'm giving traffic to others, they're aware of me, and
look at LinkedIn, blogging as an overall PR web presence. And no matter what you do to get your message out there are certain things that you need to pay attention to. I call it, I tell my attorneys that you are a brand. You need to make sure that, you walk the walk and you talk the talk, and, you need to be mindful that you just don't think that what you say won't be heard. Or on Facebook, I think as attorneys, you need to be mindful of where the clients are that you want to get, and if it happens, if you are in a practice whereby your clients are on Facebook, or the potential for your clients and your prospects are going to be on Facebook, that's where you need to be.
A lot of this is about lead generation. I think we're talking about lead generation here, really, and so it becomes a story within a story. It became clear, especially when I went solo, that to get business, there are thousands of PR firms. I cover the PR beat, and a day doesn't go by where I get an email from a PR firm that I've never heard of. And now this is 1,000 posts later, and I'm still learning about PR firms. I'm sure law firms are the same way. You have, 2 partners at one firm. You have thousands of associates at another. It's a huge sea. And how do you distinguish yourself? I took a different approach, which is quite a bit riskier in that I cover news. I cover news in the business, so it can be very, very sensitive. It's if you have a good idea, and to your point, a good idea of what you want to say on these networks, and you're really willing to say something provocative, you will get attention for it. Every person I've ever met or emailed goes in some database I've been carrying around since the FileMaker Pro days. I keep transferring it from one software to the next. And you have this lovely tool now where you can take that database and pump it through any social network. So you have thousands and thousands of contacts. You can push them through LinkedIn and see where all those people work and see what they're doing.
So the insightful one said, all right, I'll be a leader. I'll develop a website. I'll try to create presence in these places. And the ones who didn't are now catching up. And the ones that we were doing search engine optimization for 3, 4, and 5 years ago have such a huge advantage. It's like basketball. You get the tallest guy, you put him in the middle of the lane, and you let him do this with his arms. How many people are coming inside to get to the rim? Not too many. The internet's the same way. It's like a horse race. The guy who gets his nose just this much in front of second place gets 3 times the dub. So